everyone. Friday. This is Steph Lee, founder of Host Agency Reviews. I am back from the Galapagos. Had a wonderful time. And for those of you that were looking to follow me on social, when I said, "Oh, I'm so excited to bring you along on my trip," and then never posted again, internet wasn't great there, and I was really making a concerted effort to be present in the environment so that I could enjoy all the really cool stuff there. But now the problem is I came back and I have all this work to catch up on, and I'm like, how do I find the time to pick the pictures to post and put that up there? So it'll be coming. I just don't know when. And today on our Friday 15, we have a familiar face on here, Lori Speers with Levarte Travel. Hello, Lori.
Hello.
How are you doing this beautiful day?
I am doing fantastic. It's been a great summer. It's been busy. Everything is great. I love hearing about your trip, and I understand the struggle about posting. It's real.
I was like, how do travel advisors do this on a regular basis? Because I am failing miserably.
Some are masters, though. They really are. I see it all the time.
I know. I just don't think I'm motivated enough. I'm like, I could be posting, or I could be sitting on my veranda, like hanging out and journaling about the day. And
Exactly.
well, let's see. So, couple things to go over before we get into our questions. So, first is we've been mentioning the past few weeks, but we are starting to plan for Host Week next year, and our call for speakers is open. And we would love for you to apply if you have something that you think would be of interest to travel advisors. And you can go to hostagencyreviews.com/speakers or follow the link that's in the show notes. And a quick reminder before we get into the actual heart of the podcast, we've now changed the Friday 15. So there's landing pages on the sites. We used to just have where you'd go to YouTube to watch it, or you could listen to it on your podcast player. Now you can go to the site underneath podcasts in the menu. You can choose Friday 15. It'll have the video there. It'll have the audio, and it'll have the show notes, which means a link to all the resources. So you can always catch up on the Friday 15 there. So Lori, we've got a question in from Lori B, and I have a feeling this one is going to be one you're very familiar with. So Lori asks, I'm just starting out in the business. I'm about 3 months in. I'm working on setting up the foundations of my business. I've completed trainings, learning about suppliers, listening to podcasts, creating a logo and social media, along with plenty other items on my to-do list. I was even able to complete my first booking for some of my family. Congratulations.
Yes. Congratulations.
Yeah. And with that said, I'm worried that because I don't have more of a legitimate business, it's going to be difficult to complete bookings with any of the leads I get. What do you suggest I do to help build my business and get potential clients to trust me as their travel advisor when I'm so new? Thanks for all you do for us travel agents. Your podcast has been so helpful and inspiring. So Lori, I'm sure you get this all the time from your advisors over at Levarte. What do you say?
I do get this all the time. And what a nice compliment she gave you, that how inspiring. That's great. One of the first things I always say is this industry is really big. So take it slow. It's a lot to learn, and you're going to learn it and you're going to love it. You're already excited about your first booking, which is the first feat right there. That's
huge.
Yes, huge. But now you're questioning your legitimacy and maybe why would people want to book with me? Well, this is your business and you're educating yourself along the way. Hopefully you're with the host that has a lot of education for you. We do it once a week with suppliers. Also, I do a training. One of the trainings I do is WTF, what to focus on, which is exactly like this. Because I know you want to know what should I do next. And what I really heard in that question is, why would somebody trust me? Well, you're actually going to make them trust you by having your own confidence. Have confidence in yourself. Do the training you need to do. Book a trip and travel. Your host should be offering maybe some familiarization fam trips for you to go to get some firsthand experience. I had one to Dubai, and all the agents that went on that Dubai, including myself, it was the first time I went to Dubai, felt very comfortable selling that destination then because we went on that trip. But if you can't go on the trips, because there was a time in my travel career early on, I had 2 small children, couldn't travel as much. I really educated myself on the destination, became a specialist, a Hawaii specialist, for example. It was 20 years of selling Hawaii before I got to Hawaii. And lots
Yeah.
of prayers out to our Hawaii friends and family right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's learning the destination, having the confidence in yourself, and knowing that you're going to be a good source for your client by doing the education, getting them the best rates, and following up with them. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, and believe in yourself when you go do that, because it's really that easy.
Yeah, I love to, because I think one of the things, Laura, when I hear your question is you're saying like, because I don't have more of a legitimate business, because there's kind of two issues I feel like advisors run into, like having feeling legitimate themselves, but also then even if you feel legitimate yourself, then being like, how do I legitimatize myself for my clients? And there's like, it's great that you made your first booking. Make sure to get testimonials and pictures from your family that you booked so that you can post those up on your agency page. And there's a lot of other things you can do to kind of show your value and your legitimacy to other things. So I'm sure as you've entered the travel industry world, you've learned things you're like, oh, I've never thought about that before. That as a normal traveler, you probably wouldn't know or you probably wouldn't think of. So, like I was telling Lori before the call, you can even do simple things as, so I'm in Minneapolis, this wouldn't be as applicable, but if you're in a town and you're booking a lot of clients that aren't near a major airport and have to drive quite a way, or maybe even like fly in, what you could do is you could make sure to do some site inspections at hotels that are near the airport. See if you can get some, have a couple that you're really recommended, meet with the site property manager, see if you can get free parking for the night for your client, something like that, that gives them some kind of a bonus, and then push that out, have that be content for your social media, meeting with the manager of the hotel or doing a site inspection and being able to show them what to expect. So there's a lot of things I think on your end that you can talk about. Making connections even at with your local senator's office and figuring out who's your contact there. If your clients aren't getting their passports and they're traveling really soon, what's the email address you can write to push that through to help your clients out? Lots of fun stuff like that. Or, Lori, so maybe you know about this, but do you know about airport trading cards?
No.
Okay, I just got one in the mail the other day for the first time. I think it's like airporttradingcards.com. I'll put it in the show notes, but the airport councils do it. And it's like little trading cards. So if you have families, it's a really fun way they can go to the service desks. And like I got the one for MSP. I can't remember why I got this in the mail. But yeah, they're really fun. So that's like a fun thing that families can do and look forward to. We'll put a link for people to check that out as well. I'm glad
Yeah,
you
so
hadn't heard of
really
it.
just what you're saying is like position yourself as more of an expert of the industry with these little tips, and maybe even put some travel tips as you're
Yes.
learning different travel tips up on your website or your social media platforms. And that kind of positions yourself as an expert.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of gives that your audience then another perspective of you, and then they understand that you are legitimate in what you're
Yeah.
doing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Lori, you brought up your WTF. I think next month we're doing a webinar with you on
Yes,
that.
that's the one. Yeah.
Yes. So September 26th, 12 p.m. Central Time. Make sure to mark your calendars because we'll be doing a webinar with Levarte that's kind of going over this topic. And I'll link to the events calendar where you'll be able to find it. I don't think it's up quite yet, but we'll be up in the next couple days. So hopefully that helped you out, Lauren, gave you some good ideas. Next question is coming from Tiffany. So this is a follow-up question from the conversation where in a previous podcast we had talked about working exclusively for one host agency and avoiding the danger of being perceived as an employee while working as an independent contractor. So that I think was episode 115, which I'm going to link to in the show notes for people that want to hear a little bit more about it. I'm also going to link to our article on independent contractor misclassification that Tiffany is referring to. But Lori, Tiffany is wondering, can charging the planning fees minimize the likelihood that will be perceived as only having one client, which means the host agency? So first of all, let's have maybe you can break that down into summary for people that didn't watch the other podcast on what they're talking about with this like
Yeah.
one client thing, and then give your thoughts on it.
It's a very touchy subject to make sure you're classified correctly and not as an employee, but as an independent contractor. And that's the IC term you hear people talk about. Starting off, I recommend that you really go to the IRS pages and really look. And I'm sure Host Agency Review, she's going to put several references because they're all great here at HAR, but some really good, know the difference between the two. You should know the difference between the two. And they have tests in place. They have a 3-factor test, the IRS does, because they're really the ones that determine how you're classified. And they're the ones that you want to be classified correctly with. So look at those different things. Also, just the paperwork you filled out. It starts as a simple, did you do a W-4 as a worker, or did you fill out a W-9? As an independent contractor, you should only have a W-9. And then you can also seek legal advice from a travel attorney. I love our travel attorneys. They know our business and they're really good. But some of the advice I got was to look at 3 tests. Test one is the degree of control. I mean, you're talking about having one client, but some of the things you need to look at is, as a worker, is your equipment, your email address, is all that come from the host agency, or are you independent? It should be independent of yourself and not their email address. That's just one test. Okay. Then there's the financial independence. Like, do they have control over who you work with and any contracts? Because as an independent, to be classified independent, you have control over that. And then a test 3 is the nature of your relationship. Now, all of this I'm getting off the IRS website about the difference between an independent contractor and an employee, because you want to know the difference between employee, independent contractor. It's very important. You want to know those differences. There's some other tests that are on that website as well. As far as whether or not putting planning fees in place is going to make that difference, I'm a big believer in planning fees. So yes, you should have those, but I don't think that really works towards the classification if you're an independent contractor or an employee. I don't think it's these other tests that are in place and how you're being compensated and how you work with the host than it is whether or not you charge fees for the client. Although I believe in charging fees.
Great to clarify that. We're definitely big fans of it as well. And Tiffany, so I did put in a note. I did the back call to ASTA, the American Society of Travel Advisors. Unfortunately, they were busy or they didn't pick up my call. I didn't get an answer back in time. But when I do get one, because they will get back to me, I will put it in those show notes I talked about that are housed on the Friday 15 pages within the Host Agency Review site. So, but I would agree with Lori. There's a lot of other things. I don't know if it would minimize the likelihood that much, just because of the unique model of the way travel agencies work with host agencies. And so, Tiffany, I'm not sure, but we'll get back to you on ASTA, and I'll next week, if I hear back, I'll also go over it on next week's podcast. So, great question though. And the other thing I'm going to do is link to a list of travel industry specific attorneys for if anyone does want to talk to anyone. There's a handful of great ones out there. So
yeah, and something else I didn't think of, you should have an independent contractor agreement with your host agency. And a lot of it depends on how that agreement is structured and what you agreed to with the host agency. so that you're considered an independent contractor, not an employee. So I know when you give them the travel attorneys' names, that's the first thing they're going to want to see probably is your independent contract.
And that actually brings up a great point too, Lori, that looking at that contract, because even if you technically only have one host that you're working with, if your contract says you have the ability to work with more than one, you're just choosing to work with one, that could help you out a little bit. And in general, you're not in general. Your contract should always say that you can work with however many host agencies you want to, because that is something that is a much bigger red check mark
Right.
in the column of employee if they're saying that you can't work for anybody.
Yes, absolutely. As an independent contractor, you could be a part of several hosts.
Mm-hmm.
And a host can't tell you can only book with us.
Yep.
That would put you more in the classification of an employee and not an independent contractor.
Yeah.
So as you can see, there's lots of rules, and it also has a lot to do with what state you reside in as well. So it's really good to get some professional advice on this.
Yeah, and I'm going to put in our article on contracts and what to look for with your host agency contract so people can take a look at that as well. So lots of things for you to read. Let's see. Question 3 comes in from Anonymous. So this one, they had Mary last week, I believe, they had answered the first part of their question when they were saying they had said something. This is episode 118, which I'll link to. They said that they have to hit $100,000 in sales to be eligible for one fam trip a year is the standard. And then they wrote in and said, I forgot to add to my last question that this host agency does not allow their advisors to use travel agent rates until $100,000 in booking. So, Lori, in your experience, is that standard? What do you do over at Levarte?
Okay. There are so many different hosts right now with so many different rules. We do not have that in place. We have other things in place for criteria for fam trips. And it's really the philosophy of the host agency. I believe fam trips are part of our education.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe when you come in new, like our first question, going on a fam trip is very educational for you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're maybe not selling at least 100,000 doesn't make a difference to me. It makes more difference how engaged you are, how much you're taking classes, and your commitment to selling travel, because it may be this fam trip that gets you to be able to sell it, like my example earlier of Dubai. But so they're probably doing that for their own reasons. Maybe what does it look like in their host agency? What are most of the agents? Are they new? Are they in it as hobbyists and maybe not really serious about their business? So they have their own reasons. That's the thing about a host agency. These are good questions to ask before you become a part of one, because they all have their own rules. Mm-hmm. As far as the travel agent rate, if you have 100,000, not all the suppliers get our approval for a travel agent rate. So they have to really police that. I also don't have that in place because it's really hard to monitor that, because there's a lot of travel agent rates out there that you can get, like Virgin, cruises, you can get the travel agent rate once you complete their courses. Mm-hmm. And I don't, as an owner of a host agency, I don't always know when my independent contractors are going for an agent rate. So how would I be able to police that all the time? So like I said, it's really up to the individual host. And in my philosophy, I don't want to stop anything that I consider education. Yep. And fam trips and travel agent rates and being able to travel is very educational to me. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna, let me see if I can.
And to say, is that a norm? I don't know what every host agency does. I am part of a lot of them. I'm friends with a lot of them, but as far as that particular qualification, I have not heard.
Yeah, so one thing I'll take a look at here, and I'm not sure if people are aware, we have this great resource that has over 200 travel agent rates, and you can download it. Mary updates it every year, so it's incredibly thorough within there. But I think what you'll find, it's hard to give a blanket statement on what host agency do. But with travel agents specifically, like Lori said, it's that's more on the supplier side to be regulating that. It's a lot harder for the host agency to do that. So I don't think you'll find that very often. I think this is the first time I've heard with the travel agent FAM rates, or I'm sorry, the travel agent rates having to have a certain sales threshold. With the FAM trips, that is, sometimes they'll have that. But I'll put a link up to this travel agent rates article where you can get this download with over 200 rates. And for those that are unfamiliar with FAM trips, how to find them, how to get on them, there's a great article I just wrote up a few months ago about that we'll also link to as a resource. Well,
I just want to take a minute and say I love your resources. As a host owner, I go to HAR and go to that search for so many questions and so much for resources. Sometimes I even go there and I'm like, oh, I do a training every other Thursday. What should I do it on? I go over there to find out, oh, I need to share this. So thank you.
I feel like I'm going to put like some kind of Easter egg on the site that's like Lori is great, an article that's not listed anywhere, but if you're in the search field and you type that, it's going to pop up for you one day.
Oh, okay, I'll find it. It's so funny though. It's the content's amazing. And that's for all of you that are listening. This is a source for you to go to get these questions answered. Even though we're doing Friday 15 and going over 3 of them today, they're always back here. For your answers are always on this site.
Oh, thanks so much, Lori. And what else is on the site is Levarté's profile. So if you are interested in learning more about Lori's company, Levarte, reading reviews from their advisors, finding out more about them, we'll put a link to their profile in the show notes. And then, Lori, is there a best way for people to get a hold of you or someone from your team to ask some questions?
Well, the number one thing I'm going to tell you is go to our website. And Levarte, weird name, is eTravel spelled backwards. So that's how you'll remember to spell it.
Yes.
But it's levartetravel.com. And everything's on our website about our host. But if you still had questions after looking at the website, there's a button on top that says, want more information. It'll reach out right to one of us and we'll give you a call back. Perfect. I also do every first Tuesday, I do a quick 15-minute Learn Love Levarte webinar, and that's on there too. And then you can sign up for future ones on there as well. So
that's perfect.
We're good about talking about ourselves.
That's great. And we'll also, again, just remember that September, I think it was September 26th. Was that? Let me check my notes. Yeah. Yes. September 26th, 12 p.m. Central Time. Lori will be doing something where you can learn a little bit more about Levarte in terms of the webinar. And that'll be on our website under the events calendar if you're looking for this a little bit later. Some co-hosts that are coming up to start prepping for August 18th is Travel Planners International. We have Jen Lee on. August 25th, Lindsay Taylor-Lauer from Travel Leaders 365. And then September 1st, we'll have Keith Walden on from Virtuoso's Departure Lounge. So if you have any questions that you would like answered, you can submit them by going to hostagencyreviews.com/Friday15. That's also where you can find all the show notes, everything that you're looking for. And you can also sign up for e-reminders so that you get your email about the questions we're going to be going over, who the co-host is, and probably something witty, knowing us, in the email. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Lori, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and we will see you next Friday, 12 p.m. Central Time.